We have the Geminid Meteor shower from the 4th to the 20th of December. The peak is overnight on the 13th and the 14th of December. Unfortunately, we're going to have a full moon in the sky, which is not great for meteor showers. The radiant drifts through the upper part of Gemini throughout the shower activity period, and that radiant is very high after midnight, so that does increase how many meteors we see. Don't look directly at the radiant, though, because the tracks of the meteors coming from the radiant are usually a bit shorter and they don't look quite spectacular. Just look about 45 degrees away. Wherever the moon isn't is a good place to look this time.
That's always good advice. Wherever the big bright light is, don't look there. But the radiant is where all the meteors seem to come from. So if you're looking directly at the radiant, then you're looking at the meteors that are coming straight at you. Whereas if you're looking slightly to the side, it's the ones that are shooting past at an angle, which means you see a lot more of the train.
After midnight, you'll definitely get more, unfortunately. Going out at midnight in December is very cold, but it's also worth it because you will see more meteors